should. Speaking of things we should be doing, let's
Yes.
talk about the 6-month arc. So
Didn't we finish the 6-month arc? Like, we got to...
I'm encompassing all the stuff that happened before we left to Manta in the 6-month arc, because that's really when the Vel Soom arc kind of kicked off. So if you missed part 1, never fear, it's up on our History and Lore section here on Twitch and also on YouTube. So I am in the process of making audio-only recaps that'll be YouTube exclusives of the Barmwich Arc, and I will also be making them of this arc. It's just like, 3.5 to 4 hours of audio content that I have to edit with a full-time job and a life. So like, it is coming, and I'm very excited about it, but it is coming, I promise.
And the cool thing, if I just hop in, these are the
please.
actual recordings that she sent to us, like, at the time.
Yes.
This is Chatwater before Chatwater, when it was just Em in her
was
car
just
being
me.
excited about lore, and no one asked for it, but we were all very glad to get it.
I think that is probably the biggest summation of my relationship with the lore behind D&D. Nobody asked for it. Excited to receive it, though. Like,
Yeah. Speaking of which, here we are. Let's dig
that
in.
is I think, how everyone
last
feels
time
about
on
our show.
Chatwater, fucking
Yes.
Kokanee was summoned by Vel Soom, one of the big bads who his dad works for and who like raised him.
Who might still be alive.
Fucked him up his whole life. Vel Soom is around, and he's like, "You got to meet me here." And
on my boat. And
boy,
we'd
was
also,
the party upset about that. We didn't know what to do about that.
We were riled up. We were all like very worried and nervous. And we had just come from like Callie and Kamea's like beautiful wedding ceremony, and the like lead up to that where everyone had come back. Like Finnan had come back home after his like 6-month road trip tour around Wolfar, finding himself. And learning about himself. And so last time we talked about episodes like 58 to 61, and we're going to be starting at episode 62, and this one is called When It Breaks. So this happened, so like in game, this happened 2 months ago in game, but this happened January of this year. So it has been some time. That's how D&D time works. So this is like early Elamine, which is kind of like the middle of summer. Kamea and Callie have just gotten married, and then we're at this reception, and then Kokanee gets this missive from one of Vel Soom's guards that says, "Meet me on the boat tomorrow alone." So like we're all freaking out. We go back to Blackwater Keep, and Neppy is just like, she's cast sending to Philenis and is just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, did you know that King Vel Soom left Bakal? And they're like, no, he never leaves. Why is he leave? Like, this is bad. Like, this is bad. You do your work. And I was like, okay. And so we discussed kind of plans to like try and support him while we're down there. Some friends of the party had a boat that said we could go and like sail out and like be close enough that we could cast spells and stuff like that and keep an eye on things. And then so the meeting was supposed to happen the following evening at like sundown. So we have a night to like rest, and I can guarantee you none of the party got a good sleep that night, except for Callie and Kamea. I'm sure they were fine over at Keep, being married for the first time. It was great. So during the day, Kokanee finds Lex, the artisan who he'd met before, and is basically just like, here is my Bible. Take this. This is important. Go be the curator of the temple, because I might not be here to do that. And I'll come and see you tomorrow morning. And I'll come talk to you tomorrow morning. And Lex was like, okay, sure. All right. I've been, a follower of Arathis for a couple months, but sure. So we try and make some like plans just to like, it's almost like Kokanee does like a little tour with all of us, and like does his rounds to kind of say not goodbye, but just like touches base with everyone. Callie talks to him, Finnan checks in with him, Kokanee talks to Spooky, and then we get to like probably early afternoon. Neppy and Kokanee are kind of alone at that point, and she's obviously like pretty not okay. with all of this. And she's like, I'm going to do everything to keep you safe. So she casts death ward on him and is basically like, I need to know your title. Like, what are your epithets and titles? Like, what am I supposed to call you? If I'm supposed to do anything, like if they kill you and I can't bring you back, what am I supposed to call you? And what am I supposed to? And he says, I'll think about it and I'll tell you tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And he starts talking about how he wants a new name and doesn't want to carry the Buckwild name anymore. And they're kind of silent for a moment. And she just looks at him and she says, marry me. I want to marry you. And he was like, yes, absolutely, yes.
I'm surprised he wanted to get rid of the Buckwild name. I mean, Kokanee's pretty weird too. He should have just gone for like a full name change.
Full rebranding?
Like a full, or kept Buckwild. That's
no,
kinda,
I think
cool.
I think Kokanee, I don't know. I think that it was more about, yes, I understand, but I think it was more about the fact that like the whole like Buckwild line had essentially been indentured to Vel Soom, especially the stuff with his dad. But like
it's really I've never really thought of this, but it's really funny to me that they were like not necessarily like a royal family, but like a noble family, and they would literally have been like Lord Buckwild, like.
Hell yeah, dude. I don't know if you ever hang around with any nobles, but
it's pretty close.
Buck Wild.
Pretty close.
We have Lady Lightkeeper and we have Lord Buckwild.
Yeah, High Priest Kokanee Buckwild. It was great. And so she like gives him a ring to be like, I think they do this. I don't know if this is the tradition, but I think rings are involved. And he's like, I don't have a ring for you, but I have this like small totem of a dragon. And I was like, yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. It's perfect. So they have this like
a garden gnome.
It's two homeschool kids who've just decided that this is something they want to do. And I was like, at that point, because I knew Neppy had wanted to be married to Kokanee once she had figured out what weddings were and marriage, the concept of marriage was. She was like, yeah, I think I want that with you. I don't think I would ever want it with anyone else, but sounds good. So it felt like a really right moment for me as, playing her to be like, she would ask him to do that. She's very forthright. There's no sense of like, who's supposed to ask who. She would be like, I want to marry you. I'm just going to ask you to do that. And you might die this afternoon. So I'm going to make that feeling known before that happens.
And it's like a pragmatic nature of like, oh, you want to change your last name? Well, one way that's done is through marriage. So this seems reasonable.
Let's move in together.
Neppy doesn't even have she didn't have a last name. She's just like, I'm just High Priestess Nepentha. That's me. And she was
so you guys made up your last name together?
Yeah, they took the name together. Yeah, they kind of figured out, like, that was something Matt and I talked about. It was just like, this would be Neppy's, she'd never had a surname before. She was just, Nepentha of Temple Philenis. That was it. So they took the last name together. But yeah, that's later in the story. So we go down to the docks. Finan casts gaze of the two minds on Kokanee so that he can see through his eyes and stuff like that. So we go down to the docks. There's like delegation vessels, merchant vessels, and then we see this like big ass ship that is like golden, and there's a rowboat that's kind of sitting at the end of this dock that will take him out. So he leaves everything essentially with Neppy. He leaves his gun, he goes essentially weaponless and by himself. He has his Cape of the Mountebank on, and that's about it. So they get into this small boat, and Kokanee is immediately like teleported from the boat. There's no rowing involved, like into the small cabin of the ship, which is illuminated by candlelight, super ornate. There's a couple table settings, a bottle of wine, and there's Vel Soom sitting at this table in black robes, wearing this this big black amulet, and his father is present. Puts his hand on Kokanee's shoulder and says, "Good to see you, son," and dispels the death ward immediately. Just gets rid of it. And I was like, fuck. And we're all hearing this through Finan. Like, it was basically like, we get to see this because Finan is there. And Kokanee's father just essentially looks like Brad Pitt, essentially, is what apparently he looks like a older, salt and peppery hair, very muscular, very tanned, very handsome. With a,
So you mean like
great...
a current Brad Pitt? I don't know if you've seen him recently.
Yeah, current Brad Pitt. Yeah,
a current Brad Pitt.
I have a Brad Pitt in
you're like
Inglourious
7.
Bastards vibe. Like,
Oh,
that's
okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen him now with his goatee?
Oh, probably like that then. No, I
Yeah,
haven't seen him now, but I'm assuming yes, that's probably exactly what it's like.
He's hot. He's a silver fox. Like,
yeah, that's what it
the
is.
important thing is he's a lithe, wiry silver fox. Like, he's not
yes.
bulky. He's lean.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Kokanee takes after his dad in that way. Lean muscle, smooth,
muscle. Very
light on the feet.
Smooth?
Very smooth. Completely hairless. It's a wig.
But Alamir is more muscular than Kokanee by
It's like
far.
the weirdest description of something. You know, my friend, his name's Bill. He's very smooth.
So we're
You felt Bill?
Have you felt Bill? It's like ice.
So Kokanee is basically just like, sassing Vel Soom, basically being like, oh, so I hear you stopped the slave trade. And Vel Soom was like, to a point. Vel Soom pours some glasses of wine. Alamir and Vel Soom have one. Kokanee does not. And Vel Soom talks about that, Kokanee's been busy. He's been sending things that are very rare, but that he heard that there was an attempt on Kokanee's life, an assassin from the Order of the Key. Kokanee kind of denies the knowledge, knew someone tried to kill him, but didn't know. And Kokanee knew, I think. And, that he figures out that the Order of the Key, who were assigned with essentially protecting the world from Tharizdun, like another order, a secret order, likely related to Ayun, I think, are assigned with protecting the world from Tharizdun. So Vel Soom is going to make sure that the order is no more, is going to be dispatched, that he's discovered that the order extends here onto in Wolfreen, and that they have the person who tried to assassinate or ordered the assassination of Kokanee. And they throw Hector Turnbuckle, who we knew was an uncle of someone that we had kind of met back and forth throughout the campaign and had traveled with us for a while. And Kokanee's like, I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to do that. And Vel Soom is like, you have to kill him. He tried to kill you. You have to kill him. And then Vel Soom is just like, well, if you're not going to do it, Alamir comes in and just like stabs Hector, just kills him right in front of Kokanee. Kokanee talks to him that he's, tells him of their cruelty and that he's not alone anymore. And he basically gives Vel Soom an ultimatum that is just like, leave me alone. Either kill me or leave me alone. I don't know what you want from me. I'm not going to do what my dad is doing for you. Leave me alone. And Vel Soom is like, well, you're family to us. And Kokanee is just like, you either have to kill me or let me go. So, Vel Soom talks about hoping to bring you good news that the slave trade was over and that those people no longer belong to other people. However, your heart belongs to me. And Vel Soom reaches his hand out and then rips the heart out of Kokanee's chest, just with one movement. And Kokanee falls to the ground in the ship. And he feels this blackness kind of seep in, he feels like his body is kind of caught and lowered to the floor, this cold sensation and stillness, like some part of him is still held together in stasis. And they basically take him up on top of the deck and they throw him overboard.
So he was transported to the cabin in the same ship, though, luckily.
That's the whole thing. He wasn't actually on the ship we thought he was on. He was on a different ship. Someone tried to dimension door onto that ship, and that ship didn't exist. It was a complete illusion. So we had no fucking idea
So he was just in the
Kokanee
water
was.
somewhere
He
random.
was just in the water somewhere random. So we were standing essentially on the docks, watching the Golden Dawn ship. And then it turned out that ship was... Go ahead.
Can we go back just for a second? So Finnan is watching this all through his eyes.
Yes.
And is he relaying to the group what's happening? Mm-hmm. So what was Neppy going through when Kokanee was like, kill me or let me go? Because I assume that's not something he was like, I'm going to make an ultimatum where he either kills me or he lets me go.
No.
Did he tell Neppy he was going to do that?
Neppy knew that he didn't want to be beholden to them. anymore. And
but
Neppy
you would
had
never have agreed to let him go and like essentially tell him to kill him or let him set him free.
Neppy wasn't about to put any type of rules on what he was going to do there at all. And knowing what Neppy knows, and like Neppy and Kokanee had long ago made a promise that it's like, no matter where you are, no matter what's happened to you, I will find you and I will never stop looking for you.
So
ever.
you must have been freaking out.
I was.
As it was happening.
I started crying the second his heart was ripped out of his chest. And Neppy was also like, Neppy has a spell called Death Candle. So it's like the candle we talk about with Callie and Kamea, because she has a death candle for Callie. So Neppy essentially has someone hold a candle in front of her and she lights it, and that candle stays forever lit as long as they don't die. Neppy was, because we couldn't really see in, Neppy was standing on the dock holding a candle, just holding his death candle, just like staring at his candle.
Did it snuff out?
Yeah. And she just like fell to her knees and was just like, fuck. She was just so overcome. So Neppy, Finnan could like, once Kokanee, I think because he was still in stasis, Finnan could still see through his eyes for some reason. So we knew that he was like getting thrown overboard in the water. So Neppy was like, okay, I can't cast Locate Creature on him, which I had prepared that day because he's not a creature anymore. He's an object. And I had also prepared Locate Object, not necessarily for this purpose, but I was glad I had prepared it. So I cast Locate Object on him, and we found essentially Neppy caught sight of him, like felt like that he was about 700 feet offshore hitting the water.
And that's that's 1,000-foot range, so that's pretty lucky.
Yeah. So Neppy basically grabbed out of her bag a Caraxian breathing mask, which we had in there. She strapped it on and cast, and she was just like, Callie, fly me. So Callie picked her up and started just flying Neppy out towards where she was going. And as that was happening, Spooky turned herself into a polar bear. Or like Neppy essentially on the docks just stripped off her armor and threw it on the breathing mask, was like, Callie, take me, I'm going now. so she went, and we were on the ship called the Kildavin, and they started sailing the ship towards the direction that they saw Neppy going. But as that happened, there was this crack of lightning from the sky, this sickly yellow, like the essence of the Chain of Oblivion.
So like yellow, like the sky went eventually.
Yeah. And this bright yellow arc appeared over the Gatestone Keep and just went like straight down. And all of a sudden we turn around and all of the ships from Bacall are fucking leaving. They're just going. They're just gone. And Finnan manages to figure out through, like, with someone that we were traveling with at that point, where the cabin of the ship is. And he and this other person dimension door in, and they start fighting Alamir. And it's bad because Alamir is like handing it to both of them.
You guys were not ready for him yet.
No, and it was just two of them at that point. It was Finnan and someone else. And so like the other person that was with her grabbed Finnan and just dimension doored back because it was just like, fuck, we have to let them go. So at that point, like we were kind of, so the sky is cracking and Neppy and Callie's like, oh fuck, Kamea's at the Gatestone Keep. So she's like looking at Neppy. She's like, I'm going to drop you and then I have to go. Neppy was like, absolutely, you have to go. So simultaneously this is happening. So like the Kildavin is sailing over to where Neppy is like now essentially swimming straight down, like 350 feet below the surface of the water to go find Kokanee. She finds him. I think I'd cast guidance on myself before I was swimming, and I grabbed Kokanee, and then Neppy has a ring of water walking. She was still wearing it at that point, so I activated the ring and just like got myself straight to the surface. So we she pulls him up on deck, and the crew of the Kildavin help her pull him up on deck, and he's like, lying there, and he's got the metal plate is still in his chest where his heart was, but there's nothing underneath it. And she sees this like faint blue shimmer on top of him, very similar to like when she first found Torin in Caradoc. So she's like, this is Arathis. Arathis is doing something here. So she like prayed to Nepthysiket because she knew that she couldn't cast Revivify on him because his heart's not in his chest.
He didn't have a heart yet.
He didn't have a heart. So she like prayed to Nephthys and she's like, please tell me what to do. Like, I can't lose him, please. Like, I can't lose him now. And she's like, Nephthys gets like, his fate is not in my hands. And I was like, okay. So she asks Spooky to reach out to Arathis because Spooky was starting to build a connection with Arathis at that point. And she feels like the warmth in the necklace that Kokanee has kind of radiate through her. And, you know, she and Neppy share this vision of a brass plate engraved with moving cogs. And it was a sense of just like, Neppy's first thought was like, do we have to build him a heart? No, Arathis has to build him a heart. So she was like, we have to give it back to him. We have to like warm him up and get him some protection. And the only way we can do that is to take him to Arathis. But there is not time for that right now because the sky is fucking breaking over here. So this is all happening while Callie is fucking booking it towards the Gatestone Keep.
Knowing what we know now in the sessions that we've played live, breaking a seal of the Chained Oblivion required someone to be killed in order to break, correct?
Yeah.
Was it Kokanee's death that broke the seal, or was it, excuse me, Kokanee's death?
Yeah, so Vel Soom, because it was Vel Soom that did the killing, Alamir killed Hector.
Oh, yes.
And that was kind of a know-nothing kill to him. But
The
Kokanee's heart
wasn't the seal yet.
No,
Okay.
So the Gatestone Keep, the Gatestone monument outside the Gatestone
was the
Keep
seal.
Was the seal? Yeah, that was the seal of that Paylor had instilled in. So so that kind of cuts so that Neppy's now got Kokanee on the deck, and they they go down again and they get Hector, and they bring Hector back up as well. So Callie gets to the Gatestone Keep, and all of the other, and she just like looks at the rest of the party, and Neppy's like, I'm gonna stay here. I can't leave Kokanee and Hector. Like, I can't. While the rest of people are going to find Hector and stuff like that. The crew was going down to find Hector, or she went down again or something like that. She's like, I can't leave them. Go find Callie. Something very bad is happening. You need to go. I'll join you shortly. So Callie, she like calls to Nissa and is like, something is wrong. Like, Kokanee's dead. Like, what do I do? I need to deal with Arathis. She's like, go to the temple, meaning Arathis' temple. And Nissa's like, the Gatestone body is destroyed, or the Gatestone Keep is destroyed. She's like, but I just had a vision. I saw Kokanee's body in her workshop, Arathis' workshop. You need to go there. You need to take him there. And Neppy was like, okay, I can do that. I can take him to the elemental plane of ice. I can get there shortly. So the rest of the party goes to the Gatestone Keep. And there is like these scorch marks that have like spiraled out from the Gatestone monument, and there is a rift that is open, and these Garistro, there's like 2 Garistro that are climbing through, and demons upon demons are just like spilling out from this. And Finnan and Spooky and Letters are all on their way up there. Callie arrives first. She knocks out the Garistro, and it just fucking smokes her. Like, it knocks her out of the sky. It hits her so hard. And then Callie hears a screech of an owlbear. And like, I'm like, well, because Kamea's come out too, and like, she's in her owlbear form. So like, they're fighting alongside each other. Clack and like aims the Wand of Wonder at this Garistro. And this bolt, like, it disappears, and there's like a boulder that disappeared because it's of course a Wand of Wonder at that point. There's like, Letters does his Tensor's transformation. There's like a bunch of things happening, and Neva comes out and starts fighting, and they manage to kill the Garistro.
I recall this is actually a numbers session.
Was this number? This was numbers. I was piloting numbers at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was actually, I was going to ask 2 questions, and one of them was, and this kind of, that knowing that changed the answers to the question kind of, but I was going to say, like, as a player, and like, how did it feel not getting to participate in this big battle? But I guess you kind of sort of surreptitiously did through numbers, but like, it's quite a decision to make as a character to sit out a battle when you could be useful. Like, that's one of the things that Tim does that's so great as a DM, is like, as soon as you said that Callie left to go to Kamea, I'm like, Tim always does this. he puts you guys in situations where you have allegiances and ties that are outside of your group that you feel beholden to or responsible for other people. And he's constantly putting you in situations where the group could break up. Like he's constantly putting you in situations where the group has to choose
where they go,
and they have to choose to stand by one another.
Yeah.
And like, I was going to say, like, how do you, like, go like, okay, I'm going to stay here, which is 100% the correct character choice.
Yeah.
But like as a player, like there's a certain like responsibility you feel to assist in those kind of battles.
Yeah. I think for me, it was the fact that like, Neppy knows that, that she will be needed. And that was her plan, was to get there as fast as she could. But she's like, I can't, Hector wasn't up from the bottom of the ocean at that point. So she's like, I can't leave him down there because he's part of the Order of the Key. And this is essential to like my role, my job to stop the chain oblivion and the chaos and all that kind of stuff. And not to mention my husband, or not my husband, the person that I love, I guess, now at that point, fiance, as of like a couple hours, is dead or in some form of stasis. And I have to figure out what to do. And I'm not leaving him. And I think that because yes, of course, like she also has an immense trust in her friends, like the party, that it was just like, you're going to go and you're going to do that. And I'm not going to be helpful to you until this is taken care of, because this is also important. So we don't all need to be here with Kokanee. Let me do this. Let me be here. And also, our friend just died. Let me carry that for now. Neppy being the person who is just like, can carry death in all its forms. Just be like, let me carry the death, and no, like, let me feel the grief of it, because you folks in this party are confident that I can bring him back, that I will do my job as his partner and the grave cleric in the group who deals with death all the time. Let me carry that weight. So Neppy was like, you don't have to stand here grieving. Go now. So that was my kind of thinking in that standpoint. It was like, I can't have you sit here. We can't all be grieving here while the world is being ripped apart and the abyss is spilling in. And I'll join you shortly once this is dealt with. Yeah. So it was pretty wild. And then the like creatures started to scatter, and there was a tear and like this scar in the earth, and there was like a bunch of creatures climbing out, and then everyone started to try and like fill it with rocks to try and like push some of the creatures down. And then it was almost like, it was so late that night at the end of that session, it was like, I think it was midnight, and we were like, we have to call it for tonight. And we were all like, no. So then we played I'm just looking at the dates here. Yeah, we played the next week. And so we started off with Neppy at that point. So this is session 63, called The Threads Converge, happening simultaneously from the previous episode, where Neppy is like on the ship with Kokanee and Hector, and she casts gentle repose on the both of them, and she starts like cleaning and prepping both of them, like just like, I'm here, I have a couple minutes, I can't get to the group fast right now, so I'm just going to do my job. She gives the crew of the ship some money, and is just like, you take care of the ship, this is your charge now. And then she hears a whinnying, and she sees Shadowfax has arrived. So Finn and Hedge sent Shadowfax to her. And so like before that had happened.
Shadowfax is so fucking clutch.
Yeah, I know, so clutch, right?
If Phantom we had like an 8th member or whatever, it'd be Shadowfax.
Could be Shadowfax.
For sure.
So like while she's doing that, she's sitting with Kokanee, and she's basically like holding his hand, basically, and like, I'm so proud of you. You were fearless in the face of things that have beat you down before, and I'm going to come find you, and I'm going to get you back. As I promised you, no prophecy, no sultan, and no grave can keep me from you. So I'm going to come find you. So Shadowfax arrives, and she essentially puts Hector and Kokanee in the bag. She's just like, it's a clutch Neppy move, putting bodies in the bag of holding. So she puts them both in, and she rides to the keep. First, she checks on everybody in the keep, and is just like, there might be people coming here for shelter. Offer them shelter. She goes to her and Kokanee's room, grabs all of his things. She searches through his bag if there's any instructions, And she remembers that his Bible is with Lex because it's not with her. So she sends to Lex, she's like, where are you? She's like, I'm at my house. She's like, I'm going to be there in like 2 minutes. You need to get yourself ready. So she goes to Lex's house and is just like, hey, Kokanee entrusted you with this. He's dead. I need your help. Will you come with me? She's like, yeah, absolutely. Let me get my dog. And so it's Matt playing Lex as of this point, which was so great, which is really nice for him to be able to keep playing. So Lex is an artificer and like a artificer cleric and has a steel defender dog named Otis. Otis. We love Otis. So then Neppy's just like, we're going to the Gatestone Keep. I am the only one who can ride this horse, so I have to go very quickly. So meet us there. Lex is like, okay, I'm going. And so Neppy like looks down to Shadowfax and is like, take me to your master. And like she fucking takes off towards the Gatestone Keep.
Show us the meaning of haste.
Yeah, right. And so she gets there, and everyone is just basically like, okay. What just happened? So they're at the rift. Finnan chases down some rogue demons that are in the city, and Nissa arrives with just like an opaque, puts like this giant fucking force wall around the rift, and it is like everything that she is doing to keep this force wall up. And then this group of paladins and a white-robed figure come out, and this is Sunspeaker Ogren Halskani. So he is the high priest of Pelor. And he comes in, and it's just like he slams down this giant rod, and this wave of divine energy goes in, and we see the rift start to tremble, and it starts to close. And it is basically like 24 hours of these priests and acolytes that are going to be praying to close this rift and hallow the ground. They're doing it in shifts, and they're just taking like everything out of them to do it. So we group together. Neppy is there, the group is there, and we're all just like, Neva is like, Kamea, you cannot run off like that. You are the queen. And Kamea is like, I'm not going to leave my people out here. I'm not going to not go fight. And Neva's like, you're the queen now. This is ridiculous. And it was very intense. These were like a very intense couple sessions. Emotions were so high, and we were all just like, we gotta do something. And this was like, oh man, this is so good. So we're like, hey, this is Lex. She's going to come with us because she is
Here's Lex.
Here's Lex. And she is, again, another, NPC turned PC that Tim had a really great way to like blend into the group. So we kind of learn a bit more about the seals. We kind of figure out what's happening, like Tharizdun leeching chaos into the world. Finnan had encountered more problems and more aggressiveness out in the world where it used to be quite peaceful.
Oh yeah, that was a whole thing. Like the world, like sky getting yellow, but the world was just getting bad.
Yeah,
like so fucking toast was falling jam side down. Like cats were getting along with dogs. Like it was
crazy.
It was fucked up on a lot of ways.
Went from like how Lennon liked it to how M liked it. We were on the M scale
everyone
of toast.
just preferred their toast burnt and like unrecognizable. Like it was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad. Breakfast was bad for everywhere because of the toast being made to this new bad preference.
Absolutely. So we're there in like the middle of the Gatestone Keep, and we realize that Hector is dead, and that we have the capability to revive him at this point because he has all of his body parts. Because we also know that he has a lot of information being part of the Order of the Key. So we raise him, Ray's dead at that point, and he comes back and tells us that he is the prime guardian of Wolfreen. So he is the prime guardian of the Gatestone Keep, and he talks about how he had been kidnapped and tortured by Vel Soom, and Vel Soom had extracted the information of him, and he laments that he failed. And it was just like, we're like, no, like you did the best you could. He's an awful, evil man. And so like, that we knew that Hector was in the Order, and he did try to have Kokanee killed. He does admit to that. And he knew where he was from, and he knew he worked for Vel Soom. And he really believes that Vel Soom is strongly tied to the Chained Oblivion. And we're like, yes, if anything proves that he is tied to the Chained Oblivion, this is it. And Neppy starts talking about some of the past priestesses in her order who have all had ties with the Chained Oblivion. And it's just like, this has been happening for a fucking long time, and it needs to stop. Like, we can't have this anymore. So we know that like Kokanee mission, even though he didn't know, was to find the seals. So like he was sent out to be a treasure hunter and collect these rare objects, but he was actually out trying to find the seals. So he had sent the Staff of the Moon, or which is I believe it's called the Staff of Isilme, back to Vel Soom, thank you. And that was a seal. The Gatestone Monument had already been destroyed. The Hand of Io had already been destroyed. So like at this point, we're losing. We're like on the losing side. There are not a lot of seals left. There is a seal in Clore. There's a seal in Cinderfall. There's a seal in Caradoc. And there's a seal in the Forgotten Expanse. So we're just like, okay, we've got to fucking gain some ground here because we are losing poorly. So Neppy is like, okay, we're going to go. We have to go right now to see Arathis, right now. And she looks at Lex and she's like, would you like to meet your god? I think is what she said to her. She was just like, would you like to meet your god? Because that's what I'm asking you to come do. And Lex was like, yeah. Lex was like, good. Okay, we're going. So
1 second, I have some stuff I'd like her to sign. Do you
yeah,
want to
right.
just...
Please. So Neppy is just like, all right, we're going to see a god. Everyone needs to have a sense of reverence and decorum.
This is where the reverence really popped
This is
off.
where reverence really started. Yes.
Give Neppy an inch and she will take a mile. Like once she gets a taste for the reverence, it never goes away.
No, Neppy loves
reverence once, and now everywhere we go, reverie. Oh,
yeah.
Wait, that's a different thing.
Reverie is much different than reverence. Much different.
Why don't we ever do reverie?
We do.
We do reverie.
We do, except the world starts ending. That's why we're not allowed to have parties, because then the world starts ending.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why Blackwater can't have nice things. And exactly, the money hole happens. So we plane shift to the plane of ice using the talisman, and we land in this kind of unfamiliar place, this hall that's made mostly out of metal with windows with like frosted glass. And it's like, we've been here before when Neppy reached out to speak to Tauren, and when we originally encountered Arathis's plane when we freed her the first time. So we see this like golden light emanate through the doors open, and this woman, this large female figure, steps forward. And as she steps forward to us, she starts shrinking down to like humanoid size, and she has this large dog with her. She's got kind of like a strawberry blonde, kind of curly hair.
The woman,
she's wearing,
not the dog.
The woman, not the dog, yes. She's wearing glasses that have like multiple frames that can flip in and out. She's wearing this beautifully carved set of armor that is moving, and it's intricate. And like, this is Arathis, and she has been doing some work. Lady has made this plane her home. And she's ascending, and that the ice plane is now going to be her home. So she's like, nobody will be able to access the plane. I'm sealing this off, but I will do this for you. So like, Neppy lays Kokanee's body out in front of her, and she, Arathis talks about how she feels herself more present in the world because of Kokanee and because of his care for her, and thanks the group for bringing him to her. And she looks at them and she's like, I'm not fully myself yet, but once I ascend, I will be. She looks at the group and she's like, I need Cogman. You need to go to Caradoc, and I will take you there, and I'll meet you at the Temple of Caradoc, but you need to bring Cogman. And we're like, okay. And then she's like, you need to leave Kokanee here. And we're like, Neppy's like, okay, yep, I am going to leave my recently dead fiance here. All right. I trust you because you're a god. Sure. Okay. I do trust you. So we go, we get bamfed. Go ahead, please.
Just one of my favorite moments was when like Arathis showed up. Fucking Finnan cast Armor Vagathis, just like kind of instinctively like, oh, this could break bad. And she was just like, dispelled it like immediately, like, and just like gave him a look like not even mad, just like, what are you doing? Like, this is my fucking realm as a god. Don't cast a spell in front of me. She didn't say that, but that's.
It was just a look of just like, oh, just don't
yeah,
do that.
It's like the fucking adults are talking, and I was like, Neppy, you're the most reverent. Clearly, you're the one I need to talk to.
So Neppy thanks her for doing this. And taking care of him, and she's like, okay, we'll go and we will meet you there. So we go, we get bamfed to Caradoc, and we get sent into the temple that we'd been in before in Caradoc, and it's barricaded from the inside at the base of the Mother's Eye. The ice has melted, and Caradoc now exists like fully exposed. the rift between the plane of ice has been sealed, and now it's open to the elements. So we see these like structures of copper and bronze that are all just like shining in the sunlight, and it's beautiful. We see this elven woman there. She's got like short hair, claw marks across her face that are healing, and she's like, you know, Nebby's like, hello, we've been sent here by Arathis. We need to find Cogman. Where is he? And they're like, oh, he's in the armory. We've been trying to get him out. We're like, great, we're going to go break him out of the armory. So we push our way through the doors and we go out, and there's this like cacophony of sound. There is activity on it, and there's this flying creature, this giant flying creature taking
That
surveillance.
bad owl.
Yeah, so there's one group that
It was
goes.
a big bad owl.
It was
like
a big bad demon owl. A
It
demon
was
lord.
awful.
Yeah, it was
we
bad.
hate that thing.
We hate that thing. So part of the group went to go and find Cogman. Finnan and a couple others went to go that we were traveling with at the time went to go find Cogman. They snuck up on some Garistro. They managed to get into the armory, and we talk about kind of like, you know, the creature has Cogman's arm. This like giant flying creature has Cogman's arm. And so Finnan thinks, he's like, okay, Arathis is going to put Cogman's heart that keeps Cogman running in Kokanei's chest. And we're like, yes, that's probably what's going to happen. So they go and they get, and we find a familiar face that we had seen before, Soren Brightwing, who was the Dragonborn who we had met in Fawe Tavar very, very early on in the campaign, who had essentially set us on the path to Mother's Eye. We'd been trying to help her get into the Magic Academy, and that was like her task. And we were like, yeah, we'll help you do this. So she's, you know, we see like she's like, okay, in the armory there are some Warforged that are not activated. There's like, please help us get out of here. Cogman has like a special gun that comes with him called the Lawbringer. Such a badass. And there's like a warhammer that has a giant cog on it. And like they just start breaking their way out of the armory. And then the rest of us, all the loud people, start drawing distractions away on the other side. And that was the end of that episode. So we are essentially, go ahead.
I am not mistaken.
Yeah.
That was the OG.
That is like, where the OG
that was
goat.
The first place where we found the goats, because we got ourselves stuck in a little alley so that the Greastros couldn't get at us.
Yes.
But just goat after goat after goat. Just, like
Tim was just making those noises, and it was just like I have here. Garistro arrives. We start hearing cackles. Goats? Question mark is in my notes. So we are trying to make our way. The rest of us are trying to make our way back through the city to draw all the attention towards us so that everyone else can get Cogman back to the temple. And we start trying to fight this goat demon, or this like flying owl demon. And you dispelled a Circle of Death spell in this. Letters dispelled it, which was
That's
really
what I do. I don't like other people casting spells. I get jealous.
And something we really noticed that when this demon started casting magic, the magic looked very similar to Spooky's magic. It was yellow, and like there was chains and like desiccation. It was bad. So we fight our way through, and the other group with Finnan managed to get Kokanei back to the temple, and we managed to like pull out of this like area that we were in, and kind of like shore ourselves up. So Cogman, you know, is firing shots through the city trying to get themselves back to the temple. And when they get back to the temple, this metal plate, they open the set of metal doors, and Cogman goes over to the seal and puts his hand up on it and opens the seal to the ice plane. And he steps through it. And he the center of his chest opens up, and this shard of Arathis emerges with like intricate workings, and he places his hand on the seal and like basically puts the seal while holding it on the door, and he steps through it. And we don't see what happens because none of us are there. And then a couple minutes later, Kokanei walks back through.
Let me just make sure I heard you right. So we didn't see what happened.
No.
Because none of us were there. But a couple minutes later, someone who we presume to be Kokanei walked through the door. Is that correct?
So Cogman went in.
Yep.
And Kokanei was dead.
Multiple minutes passed that no one could see.
And then someone who's alive, but wearing the skin of Kokanei,
who appears to be Kokanei.
Yeah, but could be Cogman underneath Kokanei's skin.
Or anything. then walked out. That is correct. That's what you're saying.
That is basically what happens. We do have an account of what happened in the room, though, which I will get to in a moment. So
From
Kokanee
who?
walks through from Kokanee. So Kokanee
Oh,
walks.
okay. So we're
Fuck
taking,
both of
we're
you.
going
Yeah.
on faith
Yeah, we
that
go
the
on faith.
individual who walked out of the room is in
Yes.
fact Kokanee, and we can
Yes.
trust them in terms of what happened
Yes.
in the room.
So Kokanee walks through this light, and there's this glass plate covering where his heart was. These concentric circles that are moving. He has Cogman's gun, and he has his own. His vision comes back to him, and the
That's
voice.
pretty suspicious.
Not even his own weapons anymore. He's got Cogman's
And,
weapons now.
He's got Cogman's
know,
weapons. He's got Cogman's
The voice
heart,
of
but it's
Arathis, I
Kokanee.
hate both of you because this is just going to confirm you both more. He hears the voice of Arathis over his shoulder. She said, I took some time to make some improvements. You now carry the seal in your chest. You are the last line of defense. Fuck. I'm never
I
going to live this
took
down.
some time to make some improvements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're not
She
human
admitted
anymore.
it. She admitted it. He's a skinwalker. Like he's a robot.
And
Yeah.
you know how obsessed Tim is with Terminators.
I
Like this should
know.
not surprise you
I know.
that he put a Terminator
No.
in the game.
So in any case, what happens when Kokanee walks out of the rift, we start hearing this
He
hum.
says, "Come with me if you want to live."
To live. Yeah. No. We start hearing this hum erupt or like start building in the rift to the ice plane. We start hearing this hum, and the Warforged near us turn on. And this hum, and there's movement, and mechanical life seems to be breathed into the city, and it's just like explodes outward and just wipes all of the demons out of the city. Arathis was just like, blah, blah, motherfuckers, and I'm gonna just dispel the demons from my city.
And yay, Arathis said, "Blat, blat, motherfucker."
Exactly.
And the demons were vanquished.
Yes, the demons went blat, blat. So I'll stop a bit here after we do this last little section before we reunite with Kokanee. So jumping back a bit, so Kokanee is essentially pulled from the darkness, lying in Arathis' workshop, feeling like no time has passed. And Arathis is like, there's like tools around, some machinery models, some miniatures, and she looks at him and says, "Welcome back." And she's like in her ascended form. She's like 12 to 15 feet high, and she just kind of shrinks to her scale. And he sits up feeling achy and exhausted. She heals him and restores his hit points. And she says his resurrection has come at a price. His heart is now a seal. And she looks down, and there's this intricate concentric brass and gold and iron circlets in the plating. And as he feels it beats, he feels the moving and the shifting of the cogs that are in it. And she said it was a gift from an old friend. So she said, I'll have to build Cogman a new heart, and he can stay with me here. And Cogman had known that this day would come, and that he would, because he was the prime guardian of the seal in Caradoc. So he knew that there would be a time where Arathis would call on him for this, and he accepted it willingly, because he was the first Warforged, the first one she ever created. And so Arathis tells him that it is a small key encased inside his mechanical heart that will be vulnerable to breakage if he dies. Cogman also wanted him to have the Lawbringer, his gun, which is a double-barrel pistol, and which was made by Maribel, one of the best gun makers ever, who used to live on the Amonkhet. And Kokanee realizes he's missing his holy symbol because Vel Soom took it. And Arathis' dog pads in and brings Kokanee a new holy symbol. And she thanks him for his help and says, "You have more work to do." And then essentially it gives him a hug. Like, they hug. It's very sweet because the like mother-son relationship is like really sweet. I think what's something that's really cool is the way that Tim portrays the gods with each of their, like, I think of the way that Nephthisiket is with Nepi is so different than the way that Arathis is with Kokanee. It's very much like a mother-son kind of thing. And then she's just like, okay, back you go. And she kind of pushes him back through the rift, and this just like giant radiant pulse emanates out, obliterating the Garistro and the Wraiths and all the demons throughout the city. And that's where we'll end it for today.
Blat.
Blat,
So-
blat, motherfucker. Yeah.
His heart
Yeah.
is only vulnerable when he's dead.
Yes.
So when he's alive, it can't just like accidentally break.
No. It's
Okay.
only vulnerable when he's
So he
dead.
can't like fall and then it cracks and he's
Yeah,
like,
no.
oh fuck.
No.
Yeah, there's just like one pointy rock that he just falls
Yeah.
slightly wrong on, and
Exactly.
the sky just breaks.
Yes. Yeah. So
You'll have to go through me to get the seal. Oh shit!
Oh
you got me-
shit.
you got me
Yeah.
right in
No.
the-
So that was we got to
right in the
episode
seal.
or we got to session 65 today. So that was pretty
Aw,
good. We got through
4
4 more to
some-
go.
Well, we only got through the part way through session 65, but we have because I think so. Basically, this arc
Did you say
will
you've
lead
got
us.
like 4.2 to go? Like
Nice.
4.20.
Oh,
like four-
yeah, probably.
It's
420
the sex number and the weed number. Catch
Sex
up,
number and-
Grandma.
Okay, pal.
Wow.
So we started streaming at episode 72 or session 72. So we have essentially 5 or 6 sessions worth of content to get to before we started streaming, and that is the end of this arc. And that's when we started streaming, and then we can do a deep dive into other things. But yeah, so that's where we are right now.